Hi, in this video we're just going to take a quick look at common problems that people have or come across during the import process. First of all, we're going to bring up the import guide and just take a look at that front page where we have listed off all of the imports that are possible to do in TrackEd. We've also got a planning guide column here which gives you an idea of how often schools might do these imports. Now this varies from school to school, and some of these imports aren't required and are never done in some school contexts. So it's a good idea to go through this to work out how often you need this information imported, how up to date you need TrackEd to be in certain contexts, and fit that into your school calendar in terms of when you're doing academic coaching sessions, when you're sitting down to do set plans, whatever the case may be, having the data ready before those events and having a plan in place to do that. Another thing that commonly gets done with TrackEd is to actually separate the job or the task of preparing the data, so getting the data ready from the different data sources, and importing the data. So you might actually have two different people who'll do those two roles. So we'd recommend printing off the import guide, and someone can actually work through the orange steps, so preparation, preparing the data, putting it into a folder ready to do the imports, so naming everything consistently. And then someone else can actually go through doing the import process and just making sure that the right data is going into TrackEd at the right times. Another thing that people sometimes have an issue with is actually the formats that are required for the different imports. In the import guide, we've actually highlighted the extension that's needed. So whether it's XLSX or XLS, the older format. In some cases, we have some CSV files as well. So just when you're preparing data, just pay attention to those aspects of it as well. Another thing, in a few cases, the Excel file that comes from the data source is not compatible. So in this case, we've got step-by-step instructions for it. But if you're copying data from one Excel to another, make sure you select everything, including the headers, before you make that copy. When you paste it into a new document, make sure you save it and close it before you do the import as well. Another common one that we come across is the weekly attendance import. We've made a change here. We've actually labelled this, the weeks need to be labelled from 1 to 40 through the year rather than 1 to 10 for each term. So just bear that one in mind as well. And finally, as a few people ask us where the PAT import went. Now that used to be a standalone import. We've actually changed that now. It is part of the tracking template imports. So if you go into tracking template settings, then basically the PAT imports are on this page. So you would get your template from here by exporting the template, filling that in, and just doing that as a tracking template import then. Okay, so there are some of the common problems. We will have another detailed video around the tracking template process and how the imports work with those as well. But that's all for now.